Yes. Good evening, dear friends. It is amazing to start the day with Vibhuti.
Oh,
Yes, I know it is afternoon there and it is evening here, quite late into the night. But it is a very interesting topic, a topic that has been plaguing the minds of so many people. Are Hindus going through an existential crisis? Is there an existential threat? That is a question that we are addressing today. My co host here today is Vibhuti, and I always call him an expert in several topics, and he always comes up with an objection. No, I'm an expert. So, okay, he's a resource person today. He came to the US in 1991 as in a leadership role with American Express, and he was into building Indo-US business relationships. He accomplished that by promoting NRI businesses between the two countries and encouraged US businesses to explore the huge opportunities in India. Now, Vibhuti developed serious understanding of Indian culture, its rich traditions, heritage, and the varied and beautiful interpretations, as he was often required to talk about it and explain the mysterious and unknown Indian culture and the values to the uninitiated and curious minds of people in the West. Beautiful. So that becomes very helpful for me today because he is able to share with me many things which I myself do not know, even though I live in India. And he has, he wants to, and he is eager to, and has been continuously spreading values about Hindu traditions and Indian values around the world, including the values of transcendence, Sanatan Dharma, and the teachings of Vedas. The Hindus, Vedas, they teach the true meaning of the word acceptance. And he says, of course, that is a better word than tolerance. And it is more a strong and authentic expression that we believe in. So he's also an entrepreneur and dares to be different. He's a committed practitioner of transcendental meditation. So, welcome, Vibhuti. It is each time I introduce you, I feel really very happy that I'm able to share the same space with you. I'm very, very honored to have this opportunity, and we'll directly go back to today's discussion. Yes?
uh, thank you, Girija. Although we are host and co-hosts, you
Yes.
always give me a very glowing, introduction, and I think stop it now. Welcome to all the viewers as well. This
Yeah.
particular topic that came to my mind was: Are Hindus facing an existential threat? Had a direct, release from an article that a very dear friend, a famous journalist from India, wrote some time ago, 4 or 5 years ago,
Okay.
in which he talked about, if you all of us remember, that Zulfikar Bhutto, the Prime Minister of Pakistan,
Yes.
used to talk about the 1,000-year war with India, to get their goal. And he wrote that Bhutto's 1,000-year war has another 950 years or so, whatever has to go. And I replied to him, not true. Because in reality, the first 1,000-year war has already been won by Islam.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, I said, was that without any ado, we gave away two large chunks of land for creation of two Islamic republics on our right and left, or east and west. Right?
Very true.
So what happened there? We had already lost Afghanistan. Our entire Mahabharat, Gandhar Naresh, the entire Gandhari, the
Yes.
entire region was given away to Afghanistan. Now, the Indus River and Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, they went to Pakistan, and you have Bay of Bengal, the tiger, and everything went to Bangladesh. Think about it. India stood truncated from where they are. And
Yeah.
so I say that I also mentioned to him that given the mindset and the rhetorics that comes from several Muslim leaders in India, it does leave behind a very disturbing thought that India, Hindus are facing an existential threat, not because 1.3 billion Hindus will evaporate or vaporize overnight, no, but what is politically known as through thousand cuts. And we know that the Pakistan is doing 1,000 cuts on India. The Islamic terrorism is hurting. We know that we are, but for the action taken by Prime Minister Modi, Kashmir was also in the same predicament. Is perhaps still, although we have two clearly demarcated territories of Ladakh and Jammu area, as union territories. So what the shape of things would be, we do not know. Abdullah had threatened India that Modi or no Modi, they will never be able to, for 100 years, they will not be able to do anything with Article 370. Right? Owaisi's brother threatened, Junior Owaisi threatened that 15 minute ke liye aap police ko rok lijiye, hum Hinduon ka safaya kar denge. So these threats are real. And as we see the thoughts going forward, we could easily be balkanized. So India has a challenge that 130 million Muslims can potentially insist on to fulfill their democratic aspirations to have a land of their own. That has been the history of expansionism of Islam all over the world. When the USSR collapsed, there were many countries that emerged as Muslim countries. When Czechoslovakia closed down, ended their existence, we had many Muslim countries emerge. That's what is a problem that we Hindus need to face historically. And that's the thing that we need to pay attention to. Why is it that we, Sanatanis, we follow a true world of acceptance and mutual coexistence? We are continuously attacked. You can see the history of our country, that we have been continuously being under attack from one theory or the other, in the absence of an original Hindu narrative. And that's the important part to bear in mind. What we Hindus need to pay attention to is how our own principles are getting destroyed. We are the most peace-loving way of life on the planet Earth. We are the most peace-loving, but we are the ones who are attacked as if we are the violent one. We are the ones who abuse women. We are the ones who are causing all the problems. We are the Murti Puja guys. So everything that makes us who we are is being attacked. And if you know it very well, that in India for last 3-4 years, you would have noticed that Diwali celebration is a ecology disaster because environment gets polluted in the, as if Diwali crackers were the responsible for Delhi's pollution being what it is. Or, in Holi, water, color, everything is a disaster from the ecological point of view. And today, you will be surprised to know that there is a conversation that Hindu cremation is also polluting air. Yes. So you are looking at a scenario in which we are attacked from every side of the world. Whether it's Christianity or Islam, they are attacking India, our practices, our way of life. And that's what I began to realize, that we are facing an existential threat if we do not rise up. As Dolly Bhatia has written, perhaps very accurately, she has commented that hum sui ki nok aur paanch katha zameen pe hi khush hain. That is something which is important to bear in mind. Is that's exactly that we are being pushed. It's time for us to resist and raise the wall. That is very important. Think about it. Our symbol of, swastik was attacked in this part of the world. Even caste has been brought in as an element to protect people in jobs and education. And people are taking seriously. Somebody is playing the game. Are we rising up to the occasion or not? And one last data that I wanted to share, and I want everybody to look up the 1941 census of India. There were only 145,000 and odd British in this country, plus women and children. They ruled us millions, using our people, using our resources against us, empowering us, and teaching us why we are bad and how we must adopt the English way of life. And then conversion is going on rampantly, and the Muslims are behaving. They are accepting everything which suits their convenience and not allowing other things to happen. These are the issues which are very important. And we as the elder generation now, if this generation doesn't do something about it, maybe it may not happen in my lifetime, but at some point in time, we have to begin to be aware that we may or may not be there. Civilizations have disappeared. We can vanish too if we are not willing to protect ourselves, protect and defend our life and our being and the way we are. That's my opening statement on that.
Absolutely. You know, it is indeed, a very, very, not just a scholastic observation. People, like, every day, they now are beginning to realize that many of us fell a prey, and many of us played into their hands when they said, okay, after 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, let us not have Navratri music. We are creating noise pollution. People did not realize that if you live in Hyderabad, you, I 5 to 6 times, and 5 times Asan, and so loudly playing into everybody's house, because at every corner there is a mosque. People are doing it, but nobody protested about it. And once in a year, Navratri comes, and only in some states, that is probably Gujarat, Maharashtra, some states, only Navratri is played with Dandiya. Even for that, there was so much protest, and many people played into those. They just said city people are too busy with their lives, and they don't pay so much attention or do not take these things so seriously. Like Lada Bide has written, our coming generation needs right guidance, as they're either not bothered about these issues or getting influenced the wrong way. I would rather say that it is not even getting influenced the wrong way or not even bothered about these issues, but there is a sort of an apathy. क्या हो जाएगा इसमें? Music बंद करो. But what we don't realize is you give the camel an inch and it will take an L. That is what has been happening. Like you said, that now it has come to our cremation. Even those, they are questioning.
Right.
Like, in Delhi, all around Delhi, there is so much of grass being burnt. That is why there is so much of pollution.
Right.
But nothing is being done about that, even though so many alternate technologies have been given to them. But they don't want to accept that. But then this is what they are proclaiming. So, like you said, each one of our traditions, going to rivers and taking bath there, no, not acceptable. Why are you causing impurities to the river? But then what about the effluents that emanates from so many chemical factories and then being thrown out, and people don't follow rules? Nobody questions those things, right? So it is always the Hindu practices that come under attacks. And why, I wonder, are we vulnerable? Are we soft targets? What is happening? Why is it that this has been happening? And why is it that we keep quiet about it? So what is it that we can do? Like she has written, what kind of protest can people do? How can people see to it that their daily practices are not harmed, not attacked?
See, you use the word vulnerable. Or
Yeah.
are we? Yes, we have allowed ourselves to become vulnerable. We have allowed ourselves, through the policy of appeasement and pandering, to dilute our own content. So, as Lataji says, that a coming generation needs guidance. The guidance from whom? Guidance from where? The guidance will come from you and I. We
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
begin to take that responsibility. That when we say that, we need guidance, which is very correct, but then guidance comes from our literature, our text, our history, our tradition.
Exactly.
So, for example, let me give you two examples. One is the often talked about thing, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We go into a lull by saying the whole world is a village.
Yes.
What is important is that to understand the real content of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It doesn't mean family. Kutumba here, in my opinion, is used as a Mother Earth nature. Mother Earth has a nature as a giver of everything. So sun is one, water, air. This is what is the commonality that exists for every single human being on the planet Earth. The sources of life. which is God given or given by nature. So, what is important here is to remember that if we do not convey the meaning of our way of life to others and we apply it, oh, it is a family. So, family mein dispute hota hai, hone do. No, that's wrong. That is where you are not applying the principles correctly. The second one, I'll give you a simple example. Atithi Devo Bhava, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a great concept. But the
Yes.
challenge is that when you apply Atithi as a concept to the barbarian at the door who is
Yes.
out to cut your throat, you can't offer him a bouquet of flowers, champagne, and gulab jamun. He will eat them and still kill you.
Well,
So you have to remember that part of it. There is an application of the theory and the concept in the context is important. It's
yes.
not to treat people bad. It's to treat people better. If somebody has come for help, offer help. That's what it means to say. And this is what is important to remember that part of it. That when we apply our own teachings erroneously, then we put ourselves in a bind and a difficulty. So, for example, taking the previous example in which that Mahabharat ka example diya tha, that lady had given the example of Mahabharat. I'm saying here that we forgot the basic lessons of Mahabharata and Ramayana. We have to remember that ahimsa parmo dharma is one thing, but dharma ke liye hame ladna hai, that is another part too. We forgot completely about that. So remember Mahabharata and Ramayana.
Yeah.
Appeasement never worked. And
They
when
did fight.
yes, they did,
Yeah.
and they had to fight. When
Yes.
dharma is threatened, your existence is questioned, then you have to resort to war. Are we ready? When we accepted that we are peace lovers, we don't indulge in violence. But I always say this, I've said it here, I've said it in other places, is that what is important is whether you are a vegan, vegetarian, or ahimsa ke param pujari. When your family is attacked, you will have to rise to defend and protect your family honor and the life. If not, then we are going to get really eliminated. That's what is important to remember the concept. We have to study. Like people are saying, we need guidance. I'm not
Yes.
saying read Mahabharata and Gita and Ramayan's stories. I'm saying study them. Then you will begin to
Understand.
understand the principles that govern the life. It was always said that your action determines who you are. Even in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells the same thing to Arjun. You
Yeah.
are
Actually,
worried
his
about
character.
and you are sentimental about your uncles, cousins, and gurus on the other side of the fence trying to kill you. You can't kill them because they are so venerable people. But hey, they are there to kill you. What are you
Exactly.
trying to be sentimental about it? This is what is important to remember. And our belief systems are important. Somewhere along the line, we let things slip away. So, Arun is pointing out here the temple
Yes.
ownership. The temple ownership was always free. It was in the hands of Hindus. The British began to see there is so much money, and they began to control the temples. At
And
the
it
moment,
continues today. And it continues today. That is a pity, even after
that's what I
independence.
had suggested in a week ago or so, that the Prime Minister Modi must free up the temples now, but
Yeah.
at the same time issue them instructions that
Yes.
they must, not should, they must spend at least 7.5% of their revenues or their earnings towards helping the Dalit, creating educational environment, educational institutions to teach people, and for social work in the
Absolutely.
region.
They are doing it even today.
Yes,
Even today, without any such directives, there are so many temples that they have given their spaces.
right,
There are wedding halls, there are lecture halls. They have given them for vaccinations. They have given them for feeding the poor. They are continuously feeding poor. Otherwise, how are not just the pandits, the
right,
poor people who have been, all of them have been fed.
right,
So, in so many villages, if you see whether you go to Udupi or Dharmashala or all these places,
right.
everywhere, Tirumala, at least 5 to 10,000 people every day go there, and there is simple, hot, hygienic food that is being served to the people without a
Right.
single penny.
Correct.
So they are doing it. It is not only during the crisis of COVID. They have always been doing it. And in the crisis of COVID, they have extended their hands and they are offering. In fact, there are temples which have bought oxygen concentrators and other things and donated to hospitals.
Yes.
So all of them are doing whatever is there. Social consciousness has always been a part of the temple. But what has happened is many of these temples, because they were with the government, people who were non-Hindus were part of the trustees and they began to possess the temple property. So recently a notification had come because in Tamil Nadu, some of the temple properties were released to the trust by the government by court order. And then they found that at least 550, 600 acres of land were owned by people of a Muslim community. And they've issued notice to them to vacate the premises. And many of them have refused. So again, it is going to go back to the court. So this is happening already. So the idea is like, but this is not happening with the churches or mass or any other religious place. Only with temples, everything is with the government.
Right.
But others are free to spend it the way they want. Some of them may spend it for social causes. Some of them do not spend it for social causes. And we are very well aware that they are being used for certain anti-social activities also. But we are not able to do anything about it. So like Varunji says, it is high time that becomes a all India movement, not just in the South, throughout. We need to do that because the temples are prevented from doing their regular festivals. Right? It is for the people to make a decision whether they want to congregate. The government can give advisory. Okay, now it is COVID time. You are not allowed. That can be done. But otherwise, they should be allowed to follow, which is happening in, they say whether it is mosque or whether it is church, they are doing it. But only temples are constrained. So that definitely doesn't augur well for our own young people because they realize that we are just giving it up.
See, this is what is important here is to, like a lot of people are not aware.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know, that there are non-Hindus on the temple administration board. A lot of people don't know.
Even in Tirupati.
Yes. So the question here is that how do we do that? Why are we having to prove our secular credentials when others are not? Are Hindus in Christian church administration or Muslim?
Nowhere.
No, they will not allow you to do that. Why are we letting it happen? These are the questions that we have to ask. For example, let me give you the history of our nation. We were known as the golden bird. We were 26% of the world trade, right?
Absolutely.
We had massive knowledge of Vedas all existing there. And then suddenly we did nothing about it. And we were doing all of it without the language called English. Think about it. So we had a base that was so powerful, we let it slip. The question here is, why did it happen? Is because we forgot the ability to fight and stand for ourselves. We were so concerned about the Atithi that we forgot that Atithi is not here to do anything else but out to kill you. So if you are trying to follow a wrong policy vis-a-vis not understanding what your enemy is trying to do to you, but that's what is a challenge that we have to face. And this is where you notice a cultural invasion that has happened on Hindus through Bollywood.
Exactly. Right from the textbooks.
Right
from the textbooks, it started up to Bollywood. Yes. Everywhere.
So you have a scenario where we are facing an actual situation, in my opinion, that if we don't get careful, we will be wiped off. Our culture.
We did not realize that somebody, Raham Chacha, sometimes suddenly Raham Chacha is very kind and the Hindu Thakur is the cruel person.
Right.
We did not realize it. Right. So slowly the Hindu temples look so dilapidated and the mass are places where people are being fed. And, we did not realize that there was a cultural or a religious stereotype that is being created.
Right.
The glamour and the glitter completely took away our attention, and we did not realize that right from our backyard, our own treasures are being taken away.
True.
We did not realize that. Our textbooks did not teach us about the brave warriors like Sambhaji, how he was tortured, how he protected, right, stood by the religion, whatever the torture was. Nobody learned about. We have learned about Shivaji, but not about Sambhaji in detail, his
Right.
son in detail. So always it has been just one or two heroes they will show, and only except for them, as though there was nothing, right? So how we have, if we have survived, this 80% of the population is still Hindus. That is because, irrespective of the lack of strength or weaponry or riches, the Indian kings have fought tooth and nail to protect our Hindu religion. But once colonization started, like Lord Macaulay said, slowly they have started corrupting our minds by changing the educational system completely. So, not only do we not have the Gurukul system where we see our master, the Guru, doing the right things and learning from them, that was gone. And there is a mass education where you are turning out people from the universities like pins, and they don't have any values, because it is a general education system where they don't have any vocational skills to get themselves equipped, nor are they having any value system. Like general qualifications like BCom or BA, that doesn't prepare them for anything. That kind of an education system is what we have got into, and we have been continuing that for 70 years. So we need to work on that. So, like Anuruddhi has written, the temples don't have a central all India organization. So there has to be a common dialogue between the common people and the and our government. So what do you say about that? How do we establish that so that people express these are our aspirations for our nation, these are our aspirations for our culture, this is how we would like to express it? So there should be a national body, centralized body, which is looking into these and getting a feedback from the people and see that these are implemented. How is it
We
being
have,
done in the
we have,
religions?
we have allowed ourselves to become weak. This is one of the things which I will tell you more about in a sense that I gave you the example. We have had a politically a satrap mentality. That's how we ended up being divided by every single invader group and faith, because they pitted one against the other for political gains. And
Right.
that's where we have lost out significantly to everybody else. Secondly, we have not defined ourselves. We have not defined ourselves. We are always, Om Shanti has stolen my word by saying in defensive mode.
Yes.
We are never responding in a positive way. We have to remember that when something happens, we have to respond, not react. And that's the challenge, that we have been defined by others. You talked about the children are learning crazy stuff about India. I have said this on Jaipur Dialogue, that Indians must not send their children here to study in liberal arts studies, primarily because you get brainwashed into leftist ideology where Hinduism is criticized. And when they come out with their American education spending $60,000 a year, they end up hating Hindu being a Hindu. Think about it from that point of view. So our educational system is an imported system. We have not taught, where is Bhagavad Gita taught in our schools? Where is the Indian culture taught in the schools? Where is it that we have talked about the valor and bravery of our soldiers and our people? Does anybody know anything about Vijayanagar Empire? Does anybody
No,
know about Cholas? Does anybody
no.
know about, Prithviraj Chauhan or Maharana Pratap? Those histories have been subdued. And we
Yes,
have
the
always been.
signs of our temples, the signs in which the temples have been constructed, the
Right.
beautiful Vedas, how they resonate in the body, how they make a difference to your health, nothing is there,
Right.
right? So we are not working on our own. Like, for example, I was listening to somebody, he said, your Ayurveda is so good, but then you have to create literature that proves that this particular medicine has impacted so many people and how it has changed their health. So you have to create that literature. So we need to work on those things. We had so many universities doing those things. All those have been abolished. So we need to set up that. We need to have online courses where people can learn about, say, all these things.
The question here is, you are stating the problem and you are giving the answer. That is brilliant, because when you say that we have to have online courses, the question is, today we have the ability, thanks to technology, to use them. So when you
Yes,
talk about that we need a unified thing, it all existed in its own independent way, because you have different gods and goddesses that we worship and pray to. And that's what is important for us, to retain our cultural identity. We have let it be driven away. We have become compliant and submissive to others. We accept other people's principles and other people's insistences without
yes,
insisting on our own. So the question here
exactly.
is, so this is what is important to we have to talk about. But
Yes,
remember one thing, it's very important. Today's world needs Sanatan Dharma like never before. Like never
absolutely.
before. With the growth in science and technology, what has happened is, remember one thing, religion was not established by God. Religion was established by people who wrote the book by saying, God told me to tell you this, right? But nobody ever met God. We have to
Yes,
begin to question and inquire the validity of the claims that they make. So, for example, if they say you will go to heaven and hell, a very normal question to be asked is, where is heaven and where is hell? Has anybody known anything about heaven or hell? Right? Unless and until we develop living in America that we do, and many of the viewers are here, we have to begin to engage with the people, asking the same
absolutely.
questions they ask of us. Where is heaven? Where is hell? I have done this. I am doing it. I'm asking people. So you are issuing passport and visas to go to heaven and hell, right? But has anybody known where it is? Where is
Very
heaven
true.
and where is hell? They,
Yeah,
they,
the mind is
they
its own
go
place. It
down.
can be hell of heaven and heaven of hell, said John Milton.
Correct.
And I feel, yes, unless, when you have so much of unhappiness, hatred, hypocrisy, then where is your mind going to be heaven? It is
Right.
going to be hell. So you
Correct.
create that in your own world. You don't even have to look at the outside world, beyond this, our own heart.
That's right.
That becomes heaven and hell,
That's right.
right?
So that's what I'm trying to say to you, that we have to begin to question that. For example, I have asked this of
Mm.
Christians and Muslims both. And I think every listener and every
Yeah.
Indian must begin to make those inquiries with others. So I said some time ago that,
Yeah.
why do you call man and woman relationship a sin? Why is this sinful feeling implanted that you are forever guilty? Right? But God created man and woman for
Absolutely.
procreation and continuation of generations, and also
Yes.
an sense of intimacy when you create a life.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
why, how can it be a sin? Are you questioning
Yeah, we
God's
have that.
creation now?
Ardangini is a
This is
part of that,
important.
right? Ardhanarishwar, like you
That
said.
is an important element, that we gave the world a Kama Sutra
Yes.
to lead a life of complete union, right? In ways and
Absolutely.
means that is described in Kama. You call it sin. So if you are living perpetually in a feeling of sin and guilt, then your life is totally destroyed. And then you say, I will issue you a passport to go to heaven or hell because you are a perpetual sinner and Jesus has done all of it. Begin to question that argument. If we do not do that, then it fails. We accept it. As you very rightly said, we are all silent witnesses and accepting of others' explanations without even
Exactly. About
inquiring about.
us.
Because you
Yeah.
cannot go to hell or heaven unless you die first, right?
Absolutely.
Who are you
Yes.
to give me? I'm already designed to accept leaving this body and freeing my soul at some point in time in my
And
life.
Sanatan Dharma has no definite hell and heaven wherein you are relinquished forever. Like
Right?
other religions, they say you die and then you go to heaven or hell, and either you live in bliss forever or you are burnt in hell forever. But Sanatan Dharma doesn't talk anything like that. So if you look at Sanatan Dharma, that is the that gives you utmost freedom. sense of inquiry. It doesn't say you have to temple so many times, go to temple so many times. It doesn't say you have to do prayers like this only. You have
Right.
to pray to this God only. You have to pray like this only. You have to do dharma like this. So much percentage has to be given like this. There is no specific, tabulated rule. So this gives us so much freedom. For the young people, I think that is what other religions are afraid of. That Sanatan Dharma gives so much freedom that if people understand Sanatan Dharma,
Right.
nobody will go away from it. All young people, even from other religions, even without our trying anything, they will convert. They will become Sanatan Dharmis. At least they'll adopt that. So probably, I feel that the people of other cultures are afraid that we will take over without doing anything. We don't have
Now,
to attack them.
that's a very important point, and that fear that comes in other faiths is based on only
Yes,
one
there is an
principle.
insecurity because they know ours is superior.
They know ours is superior, that's why they attack us. But the important part is that the science, because Sanatan Dharma is scientific principles, as you rightly said earlier on, there is no mandate, there is no instruction that you have to do this, to do that, because they always say that your action determines your tomorrow. Your action determines your future. If you are a perpetual sinner, then you will have to endure the action of your own belief system. So if I'm killing people,
Yeah,
somebody is going to kill me, right? At some point in
exactly.
time. I'm going to
Yeah,
die because somebody is stronger than I and he will do that to me. The point which
that is
I'm
why we
trying to say
believe in karma. We
the
believe
point
in
I'm trying
character
to
is
say
destiny.
no, but the point which I'm trying to say is that the
Yes,
religion, the Abrahamic faiths, their base is on completely making people fearful, and they
yes,
exploit their ignorance.
yes.
And the
Exploit
science
that
and
fear.
technology, yes,
Yeah,
the science and technology is allowing us, we are not God fearing people, we are God loving
yeah.
people.
Loving people. Yes.
So the
Yeah,
point is that
absolutely.
we are not sinners, we are creation of God. So as a creation of God, no, we are not sinners. But in Abrahamic faith,
Yeah.
you
You
are
have story
sinners.
of Sabari who ate the fruit to see whether it is sweet, and then she offered to Ram. Right? You have all the bhakts whom we read about, they have been lovers, like you said, they
Right.
have loved God. So they've experienced God. They have felt that God is somebody like, you have Kushela who goes to meet Krishna and he takes the poha with a good at home, like the puff rice. He takes that, the simple thing, and offers. So there is no rule there that if it is God, you have to offer this, and you have to offer it like this only. You have to give this kind of a sacrifice. Nothing like that is given for us. What you can, you offer it with your own heart, and God has accepted it. So that is the beauty. And I feel that because of that, there is a scare that people will automatically embrace Sanatan Sarma. So there are several myths and fallacies spread around our religion. And the pity of it is we are not teaching our children our religion, neither in school nor at home, like many people here are writing. So we should start doing it in small groups. So how can we take that ahead? And there is another very important question here. Somebody has written, we Hindus got divided in SCs, BCs, OBCs, generals. Like you rightly said, it was during the census of 1963 all this was created, the caste system. But now, as you see, if you really take an opinion poll, how many Hindus would want it? Not many. It is the politicians who want it because they want to exploit the vote banks. So, like you said, we have to create a strong dialogue among Hindus and we should represent it in the government and see that these things are abolished.
You
So,
are
how do you advise us to do it?
you introduce the concept of politics here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
one of the ways
Hmm.
to eliminate these distinctions or these divisions is to go for full economic realization of its own potential. Because what is happening is that what was created in 1947, 48, 52 as the
Yes.
reservation category, SCST, it has become a political gameplay. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be there for only 10 years, but it
Absolutely.
has been continuing for 70 years now. It has become a
Exactly.
political football. Nobody can build a cat now because you will
Right.
lose the division that just imagine how shameful it is, in my opinion, how shameful it is. The proud warriors of Marathas, Marathas
Mm.
are known as the warriors. They were
Yes,
also being given a reservation in government jobs, and now because
exactly.
the government jobs are shrinking and private sector is expanding, they are trying to force this even on private sector.
Private
Think
sector. Yes,
so
yes,
when
absolutely.
some instrument is being used to divide you continuously, that's the time we have to rise above and say, no, we don't need it. Because there's only one underlying factor, poverty, which is poverty and being in a state of destitute, that you want to protect and defend some categories of people. But once they have grown beyond and have borne the fruits of the success or reservation, then they should voluntarily surrender that part of it. This is where the individual responsibility comes in. So we have to remember that narrative creation, all the comments that I'm seeing here, is talking about the need to create our own narrative. And that our narrative will come about only if we begin to get to know our own self. Well, we're talking about when will we awaken, Hindu kab jagega, you
Kab
don't need to
jagega.
worry about that. Just get awake yourself. See, what I'm trying to say here is a very simple thing. Knowing what we know now, we know, everybody agrees here, that Hinduism is being misled, is being practiced wrongfully, and other enemies are acting. The question that we must ask to ourselves is, what are we doing about it? Our enemy is doing what it wants to do to annihilate us. What are we doing to protect and defend ourselves? And the only way to do that is to arise. The famous 4 A's that I have talked about. And I'll keep repeating it. I'm very
Yes,
glad that you have adopted it in your own tweets and messaging that you are doing. The first time we talked about
absolutely.
here, arise, awaken,
Yes,
assert, and act. Because
and
there is
totally taken in by.
no other way that we can begin
Yes,
to get awakened. Like Benu Sangma says, Hindu kab jagega. Are you awake? Is my question to Benuji. Are you
absolutely.
awake? And if you are awake, what are you doing about it? That's where it begins to come from, the individual part of it. And I have said this several times, that there are many people have said this, that it's time for us to awaken and act. Because now, knowing what we know now,
One
we
personal
have to
experience
begin
I want to
to
share.
yeah.
Yes, when you're talking about awakening, one personal experience I want to share. Recently, friend of mine with whom I had worked some 15 years back called up and he was talking. And then he said, I am watching your YouTube videos and I find that you're talking so much about Hinduism and Christianity and Islam, and you're writing about tweets and all those. Why all these things have suddenly become important to you? I never thought that you're, such a religious person. So I said, probably I woke up very late. I always followed my Hindu traditions and culture because I believed in my parents and I knew that they followed it and it has given us tremendous happiness. So I followed all the culture, all the ritualistic religious practices. In the morning, you get up and you will listen to Vishnu Sahasranam. In the evening, you'll put up Lalita Sahasranam. On Tuesday and when Friday, you will say Mahishasura Madhini Sostram. Thursdays, you will say Hanuman Mantra, Chalisa. So we have been doing all that, knowing well, okay, this god represents certain qualities, and if we invoke those gods, probably we also will definitely imbibe some of those. We have been doing it without questioning because we deeply trust our parents, and the children have also done it. But then we have not looked into those meanings, we have not studied, probably getting and spending, we lay waste our hours, we were busy with the everyday stream of life. But better late than never. I woke up because I became aware that Hindus are being targeted, though they are very open minded. I have never spoken, I have got thousands of Christian friends, I've got thousands of Muslim friends right from my childhood. And, I have gone and taken food in Muslim houses. They have cooked special food for me for Ramzan, and I've sat and had lunch with them. Even today, from New Zealand and different countries, they wish me, they talk with me. I know I can trust them any day. I'm not saying that every Muslim is not trustworthy. I'm not saying that every Christian is not trustworthy, because it is not about what is the religion that they follow outside. Inside, people can be Sanatan. Because Sanatan Dharma is not about the vibhuti that you put or the namam that you put. It is about the faith that you have. So
See, there's
I
a very important thing that you talked about, Sanatan Dharma. Remember one thing: we have to internalize our
yes,
our knowledge base. So Sanatan Dharma, I made a note of that. Sanatan Dharma is gender, color, race neutral, is
yes,
non-discriminatory, is
absolutely.
accepting of everything and everyone as is. That's the word acceptance. But here is, given the fact that we will run out of time very shortly, but this is something that we did here in New York, in my area. There was a day, and this is a real one. So if you feel it is workable for you, do it. Because there is nothing, waiting for somebody to do something for us is not happening. Because we are
Yes,
far too late in the game. The only way
correct.
to cover the marathon is to run harder.
Do it ourselves. Yes,
Do it
hit the
ourselves.
ground running.
Let the journey begin from home. And here is what I will share. We did it. We did it here.
Yes,
So when my son was in school, one day he came up and he asked me, Dad, everybody talks about their faith. How come we are the ones who are not talking about it?
yes,
We don't talk about it. And then you realize that suddenly that, oh yeah, I didn't do it. I'm responsible for it. So if my son doesn't know anything about Hinduism, is because not that it is not taught in school, is because I have not inculcated the sense and the cultural tradition of our faith in him. So what we did was we got together about 12 families. Okay, 12 families got together and we decided that we called it the puja group. Right, this is how everybody can begin doing that from today onwards. Call it your
yes,
puja group. Right, it is not
yes,
food is not the prominent item, but we meet every month on a Saturday or a Sunday, as the day may be, as convenient. We will arrange for food only rice, dal, roti, chawal, and one sabzi and achar. That's it. It's not to showcase a great meal being served. We are not attempting to get together for a lunch or a buffet. We are there. We will have food after the thing. But in that moment, that puja group will talk about some element of Hinduism, why
yes,
Havan, why we do
yes,
Havan, why we do this, why this, what is Akshay Tritiya. I can challenge here. Very few
exactly.
of us even know the meaning of Akshay Tritiya. But I know, because I'm a TM practitioner, that
Yes,
you will have no idea that the TM movement in the United States, which was established by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Jews, Christians, black, white, everybody follows that tradition.
yes.
They
Thorough.
observe, they observe Akshay Tritiya, they observe Guru Purnima, they observe these things because they understood the value of it. So we
Yes,
started this puja group, and in that puja group, we will call a pandit to talk about whatever is of importance in that month. So, for example, every month something or the other is happening, right? So
something or the
just take
other
a
is there.
simple case of
Yes,
Ekadashi. What is
yes,
Ekadashi? Let the Pandit explain to all the children to explain what is Ekadashi. Why do we fast? Why do we observe this? Why do we do this puja? And what is the meaning of that? And then it began to create a cohesion. And by the way, it was not only for children, but parents as well.
absolutely.
And the
Yes,
result
because
was
parents don't know.
there was an amazing bonding between the children and the
Yes,
parents. We
yes,
began to understand the value of our way of life. Today, these children are in college, they are still friends, and they still talk about it. And now there is an awareness. There is
yes,
an awareness in my son who reads information and tells me, Dad, are you aware of this? That they are doing the cast thing in California. It came to me through him. This is what I mean by saying the individual responsibility that we as parents
very
need
true.
to take to bring, or just to study Bhagavad Gita, shloka. My
Exactly.
learning shloka came about, I'll tell you this, chapter 2, slok 3, Klevyam. There was a moment in time in my life that I was very devastated, facing a really bad time. And I said, oh my God, I was virtually resigning to my fate. And I
Okay.
talked to my mentor, who was a very great guy. He's no more. And I said, Bhai Saab, I'm feeling really desperate. I'm really feeling helpless. And he said,
Was it a time when you were in US
yes, I
or
was
you
here.
were in India? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was here. I was here. And I called him up and he asked me, he said, read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, slok 3, what Krishna tells Arjun. And Arjun is telling, I read that slok, and Arjun is telling Krishna that I feel so helpless. I'm so feeling so resigned that you are asking me to do these things. So, Lord, tell me, how do I handle that? And that's the time Krishna tells him that this napunsakta doesn't suit you, Arjun. You are braver than that. He uses the word napunsakta. Krishna uses the word napunsakta. So for us to feel helpless is our weakness.
Important.
It's
Yeah,
within,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So we have to fight that demon within us. That shlok, when I studied it, not read it, when I studied it, went deeper into that, read the whole second chapter, and I said, come hell or high water, I'm not accepting this situation of mine, I'm going to fight back. That's what I
Yes.
mean by saying that it begins, charity begins at home. That famous saying is there. So I would
Yes.
urge everybody for doing a couple of things. One
Mm.
is form a group within yourself. It is meant
Right.
entirely to study your text. You know,
Yes.
whether that's what the management guru, Tamilian management guru from Harvard told us in Bankers Club in Bangalore in 1983. He told
Yeah.
us that Hindus and Indians need to study Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana.
People are apologetic about doing it,
Right. Go
yeah.
ahead, dive
Why?
into it. You
Proudly
will
do it.
find things that you will not agree with it. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay because nothing is perfect.
Until
So
you
there is a
understand the significance of that. So
significance of it.
probably you'll meet
Understand?
somebody who will explain that to you. Yes.
Right.
Keep looking
That's
for it.
right.
Yes.
So, for example, Sabri's example that you gave, Sabri was tasting the
Yeah.
beer to make sure, the beer
Yes.
to make
Bear
sure that
and then
he's
giving
he's
Ram.
not getting the bad one. He's getting the good one, right? So it is
Good
not that
one.
she was.
Exactly.
So the point is that to
Yeah.
understand the context in
Everybody
which
said, how can she give juta to God?
exactly.
How can she
Right.
offer? That is how. Yes. Absolutely. So the concept of love is so alien about
Right.
God.
Right.
Right.
So
So our philosophy allows us to do that.
right. The other element is that's something very important to say here. That
Huh.
when I talked about puja group, second thing I talked about this doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Here living in America or living in India for that matter, leave the government alone. Let's do ourselves what we can do because that's what is important. Because everywhere the leak has to be plugged, and that's a very important thing for lesson to learn for all of us. That the leak has to be plugged. Whether
Yes.
your leak is in our children who did not understand, got carried away, we have to plug
Right.
the leak. We have to take the leadership role in it. And that's what is important for us to do. The second thing is get engaged with your children. Ask them
Yes.
what they study. In the US, I will urge every parent here to become part of the Parents Teachers Association because they are being taught absolute crap in the schools these days. Absolute crap. I'll give you an example. When my son was going to the school, high school in California, that was the time when Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas's sexual abuse thing was going on, right? And they were they were telecasting that entire proceeding live in a fifth grader class. So I asked the teacher, is it essential for these fifth graders to know about sexual abuse when they don't even are aware of what sex is all about? You know, doesn't mean. He said, no, no, our children know about it. I said, wait, just because somebody is 13 years of age and has reached puberty, man or boy or girl, whatever, doesn't mean that you begin to produce children. There
Yeah.
is a time for everything to happen, right? Just
Correct.
because I'm physically capable, I don't go killing people. We have to begin to inculcate the sense of responsibility. And accountability comes from there because now you know something that you didn't know before. How do you deal with that? That's what is
Absolutely.
important for us as parents to get involved in our own children's lives, get engaged in conversations with children, Get engaged in the conversation with your community and begin to inquire. That is so, so important, because unless and until you begin to inquire, you are going to suffer. And that's what is
Absolutely.
happening. That we end up, because we do not know our texts. And you have to give credit to Christians and Muslims here. And I hope some people are watching here who are Christians and Muslims. I give them credit because they
Yeah,
know their religious doctrine
thoroughly well.
better than we do. So when they say something to us, we accept it because we do not know how to make an inquiry about it.
Counter
So
it. Yeah.
I have developed that culture and habit in me and an
Yeah.
attitude in me is to
Like
inquire,
they
just
question
as I
us,
inquire.
we do not question them. Like they
Right.
question us, they have the courage to question us. How do you have this kind of caste system? But we do not ask them that, okay, if you're feeding a goat for 10 days and you're feeding a goat for 12 days, your own child has been doing it, and then your own child is also hitting the goat and killing the goat, how is it justified? We do not ask that. What kind of value does it teach him? We don't
Exactly.
ask that,
Right. I
right?
mean, I'll
So
give
we
you an
have the
example.
courage to ask
You
anybody
talk about
about
the
their
goat,
practices. Yes,
you talk
we
about the
think it
goat
is an
thing.
intrusion.
I'll give you a very nice example about goat thing.
Hmm.
Hinduism
Yeah,
has answer to every problem.
yeah,
When my brothers were going through the sacred thread ceremony, there was a
yeah.
custom and tradition that you give a sacrifice of a goat and whatever.
Hmm.
My father said, "No, I'm not going to make the animal sacrifice." My uncle told him, "If you don't do it, you are committing a sin because this sacrifice is required." So my father said, "No, there has to be an alternate. What if I can't afford a goat? What if I am not inclined to kill a goat for a particular ritual? Where does it say so,
Exactly.
right? There are
We
certain
don't
social.
have it in the south.
So my
Yeah.
uncle told my father that you have to
Hmm.
do Gayatri Mantra, Mahamrityunjay Mantra for, for 108 times or so to absolve yourself of this sacrifice.
Sin of
And
not
my father said,
sacrifice.
"Okay, I'll do it," and he did it. So
Yeah,
this is how you begin to, understand certain things. That's what
exactly.
inculcated the sense of puja in my family. My father
Yes,
never told me, "Join me. You are required to come with me." But he always said, "Vibhuti,
yeah,
I'll be happy if you join me in my puja.
yes,
When I'm doing a puja, that will make
right.
me happier." What I'm trying to say to everybody here is that we are facing a threat. We are
Yes,
being attacked on every single element of our life. What we have to do is to abandon our sense of unnecessary general sentimentality. Like "Rehne do yaar, jane bhi do yaar." No, you have to stand your ground. You have to
yes,
stand your ground. Be yourself in that matter. Use science and technology as an example. That I ask this question of my Christian and Muslim friends, and I will ask forever. Do you think the Christian cancer is more beautiful or less suffering than a Hindu cancer? Do you think a Muslim migraine is more mild than a Hindu migraine? Is my ulcer has any disease monopoly written on it on a particular faith? God produced, created nature in which a normal biological child, it takes 9 months to be born. Did any God change it?
throughout the
Did
world.
God, these are the kind of questions you have to ask at the base level. This is the
Yeah, and
important.
I've also learned something like when you said that there are, when somebody asks a question, I don't have the answer, I immediately accept yes. Hinduism is very vast and I'm not an expert in it. But certainly this question has made me learn about it. I will read about it and come back.
Exactly.
And I do that. I'm not ashamed. I admit that I do not know about
Totally,
this and
totally
I
agree
immediately
with
note
you.
it down.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally agree with you. And I'm happy to hear what you said. By saying that I don't know something is the first
yeah,
step of learning.
exactly. So
There is
I say
nothing
that because
wrong in
I
saying
don't
I
know,
don't know.
that does not, yes, I say that because I don't know, that does not mean that Hinduism is not good. I
Yeah,
don't know, that is my fault. I will go read
yeah,
about it and I will explain to you. If that does
that's
not
right.
satisfy you, then again let us go back. There must be some reason why for years it is survived, why so many people have followed it. Then my friends say, oh, yes, that is true. So this is what
There
I've
is
been
one thing
doing.
which Avni Bhakku has written here. We are unable to answer because we don't study our religion compulsorily. Parents are busy earning their livelihood, so it is baseless to give them this responsibility. Only our
Yes.
temples can take onus on them. So, Avniji, I will disagree with you here, and I will happily disagree with you here. Because when we started the puja group, We were also working. We are still working. But the question is that we all have the same 24 hours, 7 days in a week.
We
No,
have to be committed. You said it
we
right.
have to commit, and we have to commit a day and time for that. Once you put it in the calendar, it will begin to happen. That's
Absolutely.
what is the meaning of taking the responsibility, and that is what is important to do that. So this is very important that we take the responsibility for doing it. Being busy, there's one thing which we do in our corporate work,
Yes.
that whenever you do not want to do
Increasing our
something, you have
productivity.
three excuses. I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I have no money, and I'm busy doing something else. No.
Right.
If you want to do something, just as when you try to lose weight, you have to commit to losing weight.
Yes.
As simple
Right.
as that. You don't lose weight by telling that the doctor should give me the medicine, doctor has not prescribed me the food, doctor should tell me to go to gym. No, you take a decision to go to the gym. You take the decision of what to eat and what not to eat. And that's what is important. And I personally feel, and I will end this with this statement, that the normal religious beliefs are falling apart right now.
Yes.
You have people who have left Islam and they proudly call themselves ex-Muslims. There are people from Christianity, they have begun to question and ask an inquiry. Why is God creating tsunami and events that leads to people's death? Why? Where is God now when we need him the most? All God men have disappeared in their caves right now. Nobody is coming with their miracles cures, right? Nobody,
Absolutely.
no God man is coming with miracle cures right now. So the
For absolutely.
question here is very important. You commit to, if this is important for you, prioritize it and begin to do that. That's what is important. I give credit to Christian world. Very, very learn from them. How they
Absolutely. Plan, prepare,
institutionalize,
practice.
how they
Yes.
institutionalize the practice, how the concept of freedom of religion was introduced. I have asked this question of hardcore Christians, that do you really believe in freedom of religion? Because the freedom of religion means that everybody is free to practice whatever they believe in, right? But if you insist that Jesus is the only way, that means you take away my freedom to pray for myself. So you be happy with Jesus. You be happy with Muhammad. Leave me to my Krishna. Why can't you do that? Unless and until we engage with people, we engage in community, engage in activities, we will continue to be suffering. And that's what is important to bear in mind. And I'll tell you one thing, that I remember Julia Roberts when she did the movie Eat, Pray, Love. She came
Yes.
back after 3 months of shooting in India. She came back and said, I'm adopting the Hindu way of life. It's so cool. There's no mandate, no pressure, there's total freedom.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
immediately
that's what I
she
said. So
challenged
that
the Catholic
that is why people are afraid that
you
that will be
can't
easily
leave
erased.
Christianity. And she said,
Right.
I'm not having to leave my faith. I'm just adopting
Exactly.
that way of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
So that is what the whole world is scared of, and that is why we are being attacked. But we
that's
need
why
to be
we are being
strong.
attacked. Yeah.
And like you said, when we want to commit ourselves to something, if we keep it to ourselves, there is always that excuse that I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. But like you said, if we form a peer group and then you say that at 6 o'clock we are meeting for this particular thing, then others are calling you up.
Right.
You have committed yourself, then automatically you will do it. That is why we say when you make a New Year promise to yourself, share it with your family, share it with your friend, announce it in the Facebook. Then somebody's asking, this was your last year's promise. What did you do about it? So you'll follow it up. So
Yeah.
have the courage to own it up, have the courage to share it with everybody. Then we'll be able to follow that. It was a beautiful discussion.
Thank
And
you.
I feel that it was so very positive and energizing and giving very simple ways that people can practice at their own homes. And like you said, now the internet is offering an ocean of opportunities.
Right.
We can, my son listens to Sadhguru, listens to so many stories of Mahabharat, and then he looks at the TV serial Mahabharat, and he says, this story should have been tweaked like this because this is what Vyasa says, this is what Kamba says. So different Ramayana, different Mahabharat stories he reads, and then he comes back, this could have been done like this because the explanation would have been better. So, the young generation is open to it now. It is for us to give them the time and don't tell them, why are you wasting your time on this? I heard somebody telling this to my son. He was listening to Mahabharat, and then somebody said, why are you listening to this? This you should be focusing on your career. So he said, what does it mean that am I not doing well in my career? I'm happy with what I'm doing. but I feel this is what is giving me happiness.
Perhaps
So I
one of
said,
the nicest way to begin this exercise. I
yes,
suggested puja group. I suggested get engaged in activities. But sorry, but the nicest way to begin is explain the meaning of your own name to your children. Why
exactly.
why you were given that name? What is the
Yes.
meaning of your name? What does it stand for? You know,
Yeah.
I was explained the meaning of my name. Generally,
Yes.
Vibhuti means that the
Same here.
ashes of agarbatti falling when we do the puja and all. But my
Yes.
father told me the actual meaning of my name. And no. He said that in our belief system, we try to attain nirvana, right? That we
Right.
want to leave the earthly world and we want our soul to merge with the gods, right?
Right.
Many people went to do the dhyan, to samadhi, to attain the
Mm.
nirvana, right? That was the
Yeah.
only goal, so it seems. But not everybody attained nirvana because they were distracted. The distractions were given a beautiful name like Rambha, Urvashi, Menaka, but they were distractions. They were not women. They were distractions. Whatever
Yes.
distracts you
Symbolic. Yeah.
from your objective, you use the modern
Yes.
language. Whatever distracts you from your objective is your weakness. So,
Absolutely.
so what you do is that not all attain nirvana, but those pure souls who attained nirvana, their ashes were known as vibhuti.
Yes.
so, so when I
Right.
explained it to my Western
And
friends,
those ashes, when we apply here, that is supposed to, give you that kind of, uh, focus.
right? So when you
That is very
explain
good.
the meaning of the name, you understand the meaning of your own name, and you explain what it means. That's where the conversation begins. For example, my son's home name is Om. My father called him Om. For a long time, he didn't say, "What is this Om stuff all about?" Until he watched Mahabharata in India. And every day it would start with Om, chanting of Om, right? And the meaning of Om. He said, "That's cool. I didn't know my name was so cool." Like, so he now embraces the name, his own
So
name so
happy.
much more. So I would request everybody, get engaged with yourselves, get engaged
Yes.
in your own family, get engaged, break the communication barriers, and treat your children as your life and your best creation, and begin to talk about this more often. Once we
Yeah.
do that, whether you are in India, whether you are in US, whether you are in England or any part of the world, begin
Right.
to create that movement within yourself. With this, I will say thank you.
Yeah. Actually, when you were talking about the names, I remember that all my friends, they know that when I wish them for their birthday first time, their children, their name is what I describe and what are the different meanings and what strength does it give to them. And they are so thankful. They come back. I never knew this about mine. In fact, for my name, I asked my father, what's the meaning? And he said, it is the daughter of the mountains. I said, what does it mean? He said, the mountain is so strong. So that strong is Parvati is called by different names. At this particular juncture, she was called the daughter of the mountain because she had to remain firm and with her conviction. So he told me that, and that gave me immense strength during times of trials and tribulations. That yes, I need to be firm, and I'm a very strong person, and that definitely gave me character. I believe that. Yes, beautiful aspect that you touched today. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you. It all begins from us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, viewers. Good night. Meet you next Thursday with a beautiful topic again, which will be relevant to you. Good night or good day. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.